All right, so the Cotton Bowl is here, and it's between number 8 Ohio State and number 5 Texas, and I think we're in for a really, really good game. For me personally, I love when we see two blue bloods go at it, especially two blue bloods that we don't see play each other often. Like in my lifetime, Ohio State and Texas have never played. Well, let me not say my lifetime. Ever since I started really paying attention to sports, I've never seen these two teams play. And it's kind of funny how these two teams play right now, and they're also scheduled to be each other's opening game for next season too. It's kind of funny in that regard. And it also is kind of funny is I kind of predicted this matchup earlier this year. I think around like maybe week 9 or 10, I did like a whole college football playoff. I predicted how the playoff will go given how it looked like in the moment. And when I did it, I predicted these two teams meeting up in the national championship game. Of course, this is not the national championship game, but it's damn close given it's the college football semifinal. And in that one, I picked Ohio State, and it's kind of funny because I picked Ohio State at a time where not a lot of people were picking them, given I think at the time Ohio State was going through a little bit of a rough stretch. I think they just recently, well, they didn't just recently, they had the loss to Oregon already. I think they had a few tough, close games, especially that one against Nebraska, where it's like, how good is this Ohio State team really? And at that time, Texas was looking like one of the best teams in the country. I think they already had that first loss to Georgia. And even with that being said, a lot of people still looked at this Texas team like they were the true top dog. And I did too. Now, of course, since I made that prediction, my feelings on both these teams have vastly changed. Honestly, I mean, ever since then, I've seen Ohio State. I truly believe Ohio State's the best team in the country. And since then, I've kind of changed the way I look at Texas in general. And I'm probably going to get into that later in this video. But when it comes to these two teams and their paths to this game, they both had very different paths. I mean, Texas is coming off a Peach Bowl that was a roller coaster of events against Arizona State. They start off the game up by 2 scores, and at that point in time, I thought, okay, Texas is going to do what Texas do. They're going to run away with this football game. But that was not the case. Arizona State fought back. They battled back, took the game to OT, and honestly should have won the game at OT if they don't let up a 4th and 13 calling a zero blitz, which personally I have no problem with. But the thing with calling a zero blitz in those type of situations is when it works, you look like a genius. When it doesn't, you look stupid. And not saying Kenny Dillingham's stupid because he's not by any stretch of the imagination. It's just a very aggressive thing to do. He was taking a huge gamble. And sadly, the gamble did not pay off right there. But honestly, you can make a debate that Arizona State shouldn't have even let that game get into overtime if the refs properly called a targeting penalty on Michael Taft of the Texans Longhorns on their defense on that, like, I think 3rd and 15 play where he came up, smacked him. It was a good hit, but it wasn't a clean hit if we're looking at what the rules of targeting are. That's also, I have a lot of problems with targeting as a whole. I'm not going to get into it in this video because that's more of a whole video in and of itself. And honestly, I'm going to make a video where I fix the rule because I think I personally can. I know more than these trained professionals. I really do. Don't play with me. But yeah, then because walking away from that game, I think a lot of people looked at Texas a lot differently. Me personally, Texas did exactly what I'm accustomed to them doing when they're playing good teams. Texas is a team that so far this year has yet to really play up to their true talent level in big games against good teams. They struggle to run their ball. They struggle to run the ball, and the defense looks very much hit or miss. And that's kind of how they looked in this game. Now, honestly, my biggest takeaway from the game is that Arizona State's a much better team than we give them credit for. I think Arizona State really was a team that belonged to be here and weren't just a Cinderella story. I mean, if it wasn't for a few plays just not going their way, they win that football game, and we're looking at them in the Big 12 in a completely different light. I think Arizona State being this good of a team kind of shows that the Big 12 may have been very underrated. I mean, I know a lot of people were saying that SMU didn't belong in the playoff and they should have been replaced by like South Carolina, Bama, or Ole Miss. In my opinion, you could make a debate that they should have been replaced by BYU, given for starters, first of all, BYU looked very impressive in their bowl game. And they had the head-to-head win over SMU. I know it's early in the season, but they won that game. I think they beat them by like a few scores. Like it was like a 2-touchdown or a 3-touchdown game. BYU really had a case to being in this thing. And do I have any problem with them being left out? No, of course not. But they had a better debate than a lot of those SEC schools. And also, Alabama and South Carolina laid a dud in their bowl game. Yes, they both played pretty good teams, but they did lose against teams they probably should have beat, especially Alabama. That loss to Michigan is was bad. Was bad. Michigan was missing a lot of their more talented players, but I think that's just more credit to Michigan, given they got a formula up there. And even though I'm not supposed to like them at all, I do like what they're doing. Like, that game was fun to watch. They just came out there and bully balled Alabama, which is not what they're supposed to do at all, and especially in a down year for Michigan. And then you have the Rose Bowl, where it was like, I picked Ohio State, and I'm an Ohio State fan. I could not have foreseen them doing what they did to Oregon. And I don't even think that's like a detriment to Oregon about how that game went. I think Ohio State was just by far the better team. They honestly are the most talented team in the country, and they're finally playing like it. They're finally putting it together. And I mean, it would be hard for any team to survive the avalanche that Ohio State put down on Oregon. They got off to such a big lead. They came out hot. And at that point, with a team that good, sometimes there's nothing you can do with them. Sometimes it's just their day, kind of like how Dan Lanning said. And honestly, I have no problem with the Dan Lanning quote. I think a lot of people are just taking it out of context. He basically said, sometimes it's your day, sometimes it's not. That stuff just happens. I have no problem with this quote. I ain't offended by it. He's true. It wasn't Ohio State's day against Michigan, and it wasn't Oregon's day against Ohio State at all by any stretch of the imagination. Now, when we get into this matchup, when I look at keys for Texas, I think the biggest key for Texas in this whole game, and the thing that will kind of determine this game, in my opinion, is, will Texas be able to run the ball? The thing about Texas, and the thing about this Texas offense is, this offense is at their best when they're able to run the ball. This entire offense is built off having this very strong running game, this very strong offensive line, and being able to lean on you at times, and then hit you with a few passes over top, use the RPO, use the play action game. But if you look at them in big games, they have struggled to run the ball. I mean, this past week against Arizona State, in a game where I thought they were going to have the advantage on the ground, Arizona State was able to hold them to 30 carries for 53 yards. In both games they lost against Georgia, they weren't able to get anything going on the ground. In the SEC championship game, they had 28 carries for 31 yards. And then in the regular season, they had 27 carries for 29 yards. Of course, sack yardage is baked into those numbers. And while it's something I don't like about college football, that's something that also matters, because they're going to have to be able to protect Quinn Ewers to have a shot and to win this football game. Because as of right now, Ohio State, when it comes to, their front seven and winning the line of scrimmage, they've been dominating the line of scrimmage so far in this year's playoff. I mean, last game against Oregon, they held them to 28 carries for negative 23 yards. Negative 23 yards. That's insane. And then against Tennessee, they held Tennessee to 39 carries for 152, and they had 4 sacks and 6 TFLs. Now, I know people may look at that and say, okay, Tennessee was able to do something on the ground, then Texas definitely should. But let me just point out this difference between Tennessee and Texas. For starters, Tennessee's offense is a very unique offense in the standpoint of, they're one of those traditional true air raid teams that spread you out from sideline to sideline, where they have so much space, where naturally it's going to be easier to run the football. And number two, Nico Iamaleava is much, let me say it again, much better with his legs than Quinn Ewers. Yes, Quinn Ewers has shown the ability to run. I think he also had a rushing touchdown against Arizona State, but he is not a quarterback that is athletic and dynamic with his legs. Nico Iamaleava is, and he has 77 rushing yards, and a lot of those weren't even on design runs. They were on plays where nothing was open, he had to create with his legs. And the most impressive thing about Ohio State in this run these past 2 games is how they've been able to get pressure, get to the quarterback, get him down, and stop these run games, given both these teams, Oregon and Tennessee, have both had pretty mobile quarterbacks that can get it done with their legs. Quinn Ewers, while Quinn Ewers is a good quarterback, he is not one that's going to kill you with his legs. So they're going to have to be able to protect him and make him feel comfortable back there. And then Quinn Ewers himself is just going to have to play a good game. Quinn Ewers is going to have to come out there and play the game of his life. This is a prove-it game for Quinn Ewers. He's going to have to prove it to people like me who don't believe that he is an NFL caliber quarterback. Not saying that he shouldn't make it to the league, because he will and he should, but I don't think he is a guy that you build a franchise around. He's not a first round pick. He is not of that talent level. And honestly, I just see him as a good college quarterback. I don't see him in that top echelon. I really do not. But this is the game to prove me wrong. Quinn Ewers has had this thing over the past few years where he has struggled to consistently play well against the top competition. And as a quarterback that's supposed to lead your team to a national championship, you have to be able to do that. And this game is the big one. For Texas to win, if Texas does win this game, I believe they'll win the national championship game. Ohio State is that good. So if they overcome this test, a lot of that is going to be because Quinn Ewers comes out there and plays phenomenal. He is going to have to do that. And this line is going to have to protect him and make him feel comfortable because Ohio State has done such a good job of getting pressure, sending pressure, and also doing those simulated pressures. Jim Knowles right now is maybe the best coordinator in the nation. He has been coaching like it. What he's been able to do with this defense from a schematic standpoint, making things look so confusing. I've never seen a quarterback of Dillon Gabriel's caliber that has played as much football as he has look genuinely confused at times. Jim Knowles was throwing stuff at him that he has not seen, and that is unusual because Chris has been playing college football for about 6 years. Has seen a lot of different defenses, and he looked confused playing against Ohio State. You know, that's just credit to Jim Knowles and him being able to put all these talented players in the best possible positions. And I mean, there's also guys just playing out of their mind. Cody Simon is playing amazing football at that linebacker position. He is a guy that may not be talked about a lot when you talk about this defense from a star, from a big name perspective. You don't think about Cody Simon first, but he is playing really good football. Him and Latham Ransom. Oh my God, Latham Ransom is like he gets shot out the cannon in the run game. He comes down and he feels like a linebacker. He had one hit on Jordan James, which I think is a hit that knocked him out, where he came down and he laid the wood. This defense is playing out of their mind, so Quinn Ewers is going to have to play out of his mind to not look like a fool out there on Friday, Thursday, or Saturday. I forget when this game is. That's bad journalism work by me, but I forget. I just know when it's happening, I'm going to be there, of course. Like, duh, this is the stuff I love. So yeah, this is a prove-it game for Quinn Ewers. And my last little key for Texas will be your roster is going to have to play up to their talent level. Like I kind of said before, I don't believe Texas has played up to their talent level. Texas, to me, has one of the more talented rosters in the entire nation, but they have yet to consistently show it. This is the game where it has to come. You know, all of that talent has to come to the surface because Ohio State is the most talented roster in the nation. Ohio State has been playing like the most talented roster in the nation. And for you to compete, your talent level is going to have to show up. You're going to have to execute, but also show why you were 4 and 5 stars. Show why you were the #1 team in the country at one point in time. Show why people like me were saying you were going to win it all. Yes, I don't want Ohio State to lose this game, but I would love for Texas to show up so I won't look stupid, because early in the year when people were asking me after Ohio State took that loss and looked questionable, I was going around saying Texas is the end-all be-all. Even when Oregon was #1, I was like, I think Texas is better. You have to show up. This talent level, your talent has to finally show up. This is a game, they have to play their best possible game. They do. This is the best team they have seen all year round. And it's going to be a wonderful test. It's going to be a wonderful game. Now, shifting to the Ohio State perspective of things when it comes to Ohio State. Not that I don't think Ohio State needs to do much to win this game, because they do have to do a lot. They just have to keep doing what they're doing. What Ohio State is doing right now is working. They have to keep doing it, especially from an offensive point of view. The one thing I love about Ohio State right now is that they understand their strengths and they understand their weaknesses. This Ohio State offense doesn't have much weaknesses, but they do have strengths. And their strength is the passing game. And I love how they've been able to acknowledge how they need to pass the ball to open up the run game. You're not going to run the ball successfully if you just come out there and run the ball if you're Ohio State. That's not your strength this year. Your strength is them receivers, is them boys on the outside. I know everybody's talking about Jeremiah Smith, and they should. Jeremiah Smith may be the best true freshman football player I've ever seen. He may be the best receiver I've ever seen at Ohio State. And I've seen Michael Thomas. I've seen Chris Olave. I've seen Terry McLaurin. I've seen Garrett Wilson. I've seen Marvin Harrison. I've seen those guys. He may be the best one I've ever seen. Like, it's just insane what he is doing. The size, the speed, also the technical route running ability, the way he's able to manipulate his body however he pleases running routes, just little things like moving, like on that, I think corner route that he scored a touchdown on, it was either a corner or a post. I forget where he was at in the field. He did that head fake, got the DB to turn his entire body around, then said, all right, no, I'm going the other way. Wide open for the touchdown. It's the way he's able to blend his natural given talent mixed in with technical receiver work, being a good receivers, deeper than just being gifted to play the position. He has it up here too, which is amazing to watch. But they also have Emeka Egbuka, who honestly may be the best receiver in this upcoming draft. I think he's the most underrated. He doesn't get talked about a lot because it's easy to get overshadowed by Jeremiah Smith. And honestly, through Emeka Egbuka's entire time here, he's never been the number one. And that's saying a lot given he is really good. It's just been the guys above him. But I think some teams are going to be very happy when he falls to them in the first round. And I think he's going to have a big game. Because how I kind of foresee Texas playing this team is they're going to be like, okay, Jeremiah Smith, you're not going to go off. And if I'm Ohio State, cool, do that. We have Emeka Egbuka. We have Cardell Tate. But mainly Emeka Egbuka, I think he's going to have himself a stellar evening when these two teams face off. I mean, honestly, he had the most impressive touchdown catch against Oregon. That one, like when he was running past two people down the seam, Will Howard dropped a dot, but he caught it with one hand, pinning it to his body. It was amazing. People don't talk about that one because Jeremiah Smith went nuclear, but Emeka Egbuka is playing really good football, and he is extremely, extremely underrated. And you cannot sleep on him, especially if you're this Texas defense. And also, Ohio State's going to be playing the most physical team they've seen all year. I don't know if Texas is better than Oregon, but one thing I will say, because I've watched a lot of Oregon, I've watched a lot of Texas. Texas is a more physical football team. They come and they laid the wood. This front seven, while they are extremely talented, I believe they have been inconsistent, they will come lay the wood. But it's going to be an interesting test for Ohio State. While I don't think it'll be much of a problem because Ohio State definitely has the guys to match up with that physicality, this is a physical ball club that's coming in there. So I just think it's going to be one of the most physical teams that Ohio State has seen all year. And I'm interested to see how they, how they handle that challenge. Because it will be a challenge. Even though, yes, I'm picking Ohio State in this game, Texas is going to come with it. Now, part of the reason, I'm picking Ohio State mainly because I just like the matchups for Ohio State. And the main reason why I'm picking Ohio State is this Ohio State receiving core is the best in the nation. And the weak point of this Texas defense is their secondary, in my opinion. Even though they have a Thorpe Award winner, they can be had. Clemson was able to eat on them at times. And Clemson is nowhere near in the same stratosphere at Ohio State when it comes to receiver talent, receiver ability, and overall play calling. I think Ryan Day will be able to get whatever he wants to on the outside against this Texas defense, which is saying a lot because they are pretty good. I just think Ohio State's that much better. And if Texas is unable to run the ball and Ohio State's able to get pressure, I don't think Quinn Ewers is going to have a good day back there. I don't. And I can see Ohio State winning this game by like 2 touchdowns, but I don't think it's going to be like the Oregon or Tennessee game at all. I think while Oregon and Tennessee were both pretty good teams, I think Texas is a step better and can match them better when it comes to talent. So I see this game honestly being a lot closer and being one that Ohio State pulls out in the second half, And one of the biggest keys for Texas, in all honesty, you cannot come out slow. You cannot come out in this game and say, okay, we're going to feel our way through it. You cannot do that. We've seen Ohio State's going to come out fast. Ohio State's going to come out throwing their best punch. If you come into this game saying, all right, we're just going to take our time to feel our way through, you're going to look up and you're going to be down by 3 touchdowns. You'll be like, oh my God, how do we come back? Because this Ohio State team is built to play with the lead. While, yes, they're also built to play from behind, this defense is built to play with the lead because as we've seen, this pass rush is really coming to their own. And if you just tell this pass rush, oh, they're just going to throw the ball, oh, they finna have a day against you. They finna have a day against a stationary target in Quinn Ewers. So if I'm Texas, you cannot, and I repeat, you cannot start off slow. You cannot. If they do, this will not be much of a game. This will not. I mean, there's a possibility you still lose this game and you come out on fire. But I just think you have zero chance. If you come out slow and you look up and you're down by 14 in the first quarter. If you are, I'm just going to assume the game is over. I'm still going to watch because you never know what's going to happen, but I'm just going to assume the game is over. That's just how I see this game. But I think when for a really good Cotton Bowl, I think out of these 2 games, I don't want to say this will be the best one. I think the other one, I think the Orange Bowl is also another very interesting matchup, another styles clashing matchup. But this one, I think we're in for a very good one. I'm just going to pick Ohio State. So down in the comments below, let me know who you have winning. Let me know if I'm right or if I'm wrong, if you disagree, if you agree. Let's have a civil discourse about this game, or you can just praise me because I would love that too. But anyway, please remember to like, comment, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend. I love y'all, and I'll be back soon to talk about the Orange Bowl. Adios.